everybody, and welcome back to the show. My next guest is a modern day spiritualist medium who grew up in and around Bury, Lancashire, in the UK. He was awarded the Spiritualist National Union's prestigious Gordon Higginson Memorial Scholarship Award in 2016 and has since been awarded a Certificate of Recognition with the SNU in speaking, demonstrating, and teaching, and has met the standard to become a trainee tutor at the Arthur Findlay College. He is known for his compassion and dedication in serving others, searching for proof of survival of the soul after physical death. This belief has led him to seek the various highest in standards in mediumship and knowledge of the soul and spirit. I am so pleased to welcome Adam Berry to the show. So nice to have you here, Adam.
Thank you for having me, Courtney. It's wonderful to be here and to finally meet you after all this time as well.
Yes, it's so nice. I actually found you online and just saw some of your work, and I haven't attended yet, but I will try to. When you do the sitting and the power, it works usually at the same,
Yeah,
usually have it going at the same time when I'm doing private readings in the morning here at home. So I'm like,
yeah,
I got to balance it, but I
yeah.
really want to check it out. And then I've seen some interviews and on YouTube. And I love YouTube because you really can watch everybody in their own element and get an essence of who they are. And
Yeah.
I was really intrigued by you and I thought, oh, I'd love to have you on the show. And I'm so privileged to have you.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
So you have a really unique story of how you grew up and how you came into this understanding of these mediumistic powers of awareness. And I'm wondering if you could maybe share a little bit about your backstory and how you came to a place where you decided, I'm going to start developing.
Yeah. Well, it sort of started, like many mediums, they have like a knowing or feel a bit different as they're growing up as children. Now,
Mhm.
I wasn't a child that saw spirit people or anything like that, but I was very sensitive. So I was sensitive within friendships, within family. I was very quiet and very subdued, really, as a child. And when through that subduedness as well, it was creates, I suppose, some emotional issues for me.
Mhm.
It's quite, I don't want to say dysfunctional, but it wasn't your conventional family growing up, because I was brought up by my grandparents. So for reasons beyond my control and beyond my parents' control as well. So
Mhm.
there was all these things that you sort of hold on to, these limiting beliefs and conditions and all sorts of things that made me very shy.
Mhm.
So I developed from a younger age a drink problem. Um, like from by the age of 18, I was in a detox, and I was having to dry out. This was the accumulation of my real dad passing away when I was 17.
Mhm.
But it was always in me with this addiction, because it was just part of my personality about coping and numbing the emotions. So there was
Yeah.
always some sort of distractions somewhere. So what happened then? I mean, I always had this knowing about things, but I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and that really, when I stopped drinking, it really opened up, because they obviously do the 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yeah.
and it opens you up to this belief of a higher power.
Yes.
And with this sort of understanding, I could understand this belief of a higher power, and it sort of brought out within me more of this psychic nature that I didn't understand too
Mhm.
well. So things were happening that I knew that how could I possibly know that? And for example, we've got a friend in Australia, not heard from them for months, and I just sat down and started writing to them. And then my mum phoned up and said, "Oh, Mandy's just phoned from Australia, seeing how we are." So there was that synchronicity as well.
Yeah.
And all these things that I couldn't understand was happening. I used to read the tarot cards. I met my best friend at 16, and I loved the tarot cards. That was from a phase of my sister when I was 8 years old, and I used to sneak in a bedroom and get a tarot cards. So that always inspired me with the mysticism of things.
Yeah.
I loved, there was a shop called Spooks in a place called Haworth, and I loved going in there, and I loved going in the Corn Exchange and Affleck's Palace in Manchester, and they had all like this new agey stuff, all these tarot cards, crystals, and them electric ball. I don't know what they're called, but them electric ball things, and I loved all that. So it was kind of like this exciting thing about all these I don't know, these ways that I didn't understand, and it was all new agey stuff. And obviously, I think the tarot cards are kind of new agey as well.
Yeah.
And what happened was to follow was with my best friend. It was her that was hearing the voices. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, she was hearing the voices, and things were happening to her. And she ended up going to a spiritualist church, to a development place or awareness at the time. I went to babysit her children and come back, and there was like a group of us, and we are all like waiting to hear what happened when she went. So it was never really about me developing this. I just had this interest in it, and
Yeah.
also astrology too. And it's this, when you find these like-minded people, and then it just grows and grows. So we all went to a spiritualist church. So I'm 19 by this time, and we went to this spiritualist church, a local spiritualist church in Bury, and we thought that this medium was, she comes every week, and all these people come here every week, and it must be a fix. How does she know that about these people? And we just
Mhm.
couldn't understand it. And she never actually came to any of us. There was about 8 of us there, and as we didn't realize it's kind of etiquette to leave the medium alone after they've done the demonstration or the service, but we're all sort of sat around her like she's some alien and asking questions. Well, I wasn't asking the questions because I was very quiet. But my best friend's a lot louder. Um, and she actually went round the room, round the circle of us. But she says, "Where's John? Where's John?" Sorry, no, she said, "Where's the hairdresser?" That was it. "Where's the
Okay.
hairdresser who should have been here?" Well, our friend John should have been there. And we're like, "Oh my God, how does she know that?"
Yeah.
Um, and she did, and she continued to go around the circle of us and give us all a piece of information. And she gave me a piece of information that I said, "No, I don't understand that." And she said, "Well, who's Peter then?" Well, that was my dad in the spirit world. And it was like, and it
Wow.
and it sort of made sense what she said, and I'm like, "Oh my!" And everybody gasped. And I think from that point, it propelled me to be more intrigued about the spirit world, wanting to know where my dad was,
Yeah.
wanting to know and understand what was happening. And I used to go every week to the spiritualist church then. And it was actually, that was a Spiritualist National Union church that I went to first of all, but it
Mhm.
was actually a Christian spiritualist church that I went to for many years. And it was like every Thursday night, that was my solace. I just loved the energy in the place. And
Yeah.
I suppose it didn't really matter if you got a message or not, there was just something. And I always sort of likened it to, there's this similarity to AA and within spiritualism.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the community, maybe it was the belonging. But I knew that I could interact with anybody in the church. Whereas when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, I always felt I can only communicate with other alcoholics, whether it's about drinking or not drinking, and that's me personally. But when I went to the Spiritualist Church, it was just different, and I got involved in healing because somebody from the platform said you should be a healer. Well, it made sense because, like, from being a child, I used to put my hands over the dog. We used to have this Yorkshire Terrier called Lucy. It was it was a nasty little thing. And I just remember putting my hands over, no, like hovering over her,
Yeah.
and she'd just go down and go to sleep. And I believed at that time, so that was a very young age, and I believed at a time that there was a power that ran through me.
Yeah.
and that was able to calm, and now in that terminology, to heal.
Yes.
Um, but it was just a natural knowing. So I continued with the healing, and then people from the platform started to say, you should be a medium, you should start going to the development circle. Well, it was one thing that I never believed I was. Yeah, I might have got visions, I might have been great with the tarot cards and being able to read them. But when it came to mediumship, I wasn't sure.
Mhm.
And, I sat in a awareness class for 18 months and really nothing much happened. And I was dedicated, like every week to go. But I now know that that was the most that was happening, because I was sat next to people that were having these wonderful journeys in meditation, and I really wasn't. It was all blank. There was nothing. In fact, I'd just go off somewhere else, and I'd get told off by the teacher
Uh-oh.
for, for not being disciplined and following what she needed to say. And so, I just became this uh, workshop junkie, I suppose. I just
Yeah.
loved learning about it. It always seemed it always admired. I was always um, admiring the mediums that were up on the platform and thinking, how do they do that?
Mhm.
You know, Coming from someone that's really shy, how do they actually do that? And you know, there was a lady that was used to go, "Can I come to you, love? Can you take that, love? That'll do for me, love." And I thought, she's great. It was just amazing at the time. And what was the game changer, I suppose, was when my friend Robin said, "You're coming to the Arthur Findlay College," and I was about 23 years old at the time, and I remember booking it and not really knowing what was going to happen or where I was going,
Mhm.
and I I remember being at the airport. We could fly from Blackpool to Stansted, and there was a lady there, and she was called Jill Harland. Now, I didn't know who she was, but she was a tutor at the college, and she actually gave my friend Robin a reading whilst we were having a coffee. Well, I'd never experienced anything like it in my life. It was the information that she gave, the presence that I could feel, that I knew that it was his mum, and I couldn't understand why it felt so different. But when I went to the college, you could really understand the difference, because all the tutors seemed to be like that. And there was just this presence and this wonderful uh, place to learn. I mean, it was magnificent. I mean, some people would refer it to Hogwarts at the time, like with Harry Potter.
Yes.
Um, I mean, that's what it was named when I went there. And it was at the time I had a tutor called Glyn Edwards. He was the
Yes.
first. He was the first tutor that I had, and he actually introduced me to the Sitting in the Power at
Mhm.
the time. So this is all back in 2005, and it was Glyn that said, "If only," and this was in front of everybody in the sanctuary, "if only young Adam knew how much potential he had." And it was like I wanted to crawl underneath the actual chair, and I suppose from that experience, I followed Glyn for some time after
Mhm.
the college. Again, workshops, and I really wanted to. There was something within that really wanted to go forward with this, but I didn't really know how to. And I was really looking, going to the different workshops, and yeah, it was. You get excited about the weekend workshops, and you'd be
Yeah.
like, "I'm going to start doing this now." And then Monday comes, you're back at work. Tuesday, life's back to normal.
Yeah.
It's and you could never, I could never sort of get moving forward, and I still couldn't understand how mediums could stand on the platform. So it was something that I really struggled with. But I did keep on learning, keep on going to the workshops, and wasn't until 2011 I went back to the college. So there was kind of like a big gap,
Yep.
and I think it was. like a time where I was truly ready,
Yeah.
because it was something where my husband Sean, he'd had a heart attack in that year, and other health issues, and he came into a bit of money, and he just said, I'd like you to go to the Arthur Findlay College, because every time that you speak about this place, you smile,
Oh,
and I really want you to go back. So I did, and I booked on Tony Stockwell's week, which was Embracing the Spirit.
love Tony. I mentor with
Yeah,
him. He's amazing.
he is. And there was a lady called Jose Goschalk from the Netherlands who she gave me a private sitting, and it was just amazing how she got every aspect about what was going on in my life at that time. And she says, you should get in touch with Mavis Patilla. She's local to you, I'm sure. And so I started to follow this breadcrumb trail,
Yeah.
and then I ended up going on one of Mavis's courses, and Tony was on that as well. It was in Disley. They have these weekend work courses at Disley near Stockport, and Tony was on it, and I ended up having a sit-in with Mavis, and she said to me, in 3 years' time, you'll be a professional platform medium. And I'm like,
Wow.
what? I don't get that, with especially when you the way that you're feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and she directed me to a church, and I followed that place to the church, and that didn't feel quite right. So I then became a bit stalemate again, because it was that excitement again. I'm on the right track, and then nothing. And then what was to happen was my little friend Edith, who, we used to go on courses together, uh, and she asked me if I'd like to go on this course, which was at Disley. And I knew I couldn't because of work. I knew I couldn't get the time off. So that was in my mind. And I told her that I couldn't go. But I had this dream a few months later. And it was that I saw Mavis on a train platform. And we were walking, and said hello to her. And we started walking down this train platform. And she just turned around to me and says, are you coming on my course, young man? And I went, I can't. I can't, Mavis, because I work. And the look of disappointment woke me up. It actually woke me up. And
Wow.
and it was like, maybe it's 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And I thought, how am I going to get out of this thing I'm doing at work to be able to go on this course? And I thought, hang on a minute, I don't even know what this course is about. So, so I grabbed my phone and I went on Mavis's website, and that's when I saw the mentorship flash up, and honestly, it was like a thunderbolt to my stomach. And I read it, and I thought, this is everything that I've needed and want. And I remember going, actually booking on it without asking my partner, because I just knew it was right.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited. And to me, you had to have like an interview as well with Mavis. And to me, it was like getting into university. It was,
Yeah.
and when she accepted that I could go on it, it was like, wow, I can't believe it, because I'd always struggled academically with things, with being dyslexic. So when this came around, it's something that, wow, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I really want to know more about. And this was my opportunity. So I then studied with Mavis on the mentorship, and she brought everything together for me. I couldn't pray before Mavis got hold of me. I couldn't speak before Mavis got hold of me. Now, I always say, it's like in my book, she gave me the voice, and it was
Yes.
only fair that she did the forward in that, because she really did give me the inspiration, or enabled that inspiration for me to find my voice and who I am. It was all part of it. So at the end of that 18 months, I was actually taking my own services. So
Wow.
it was, and again, and it's always learning, growing, and understanding.
Yeah.
And because of Mavis's teachings, I was able to, I'd started to do the SNU qualifications as well. So it's like the platform accreditation.
Yeah.
scheme, I started to do all that, and it all really complemented everything that I'd done on the mentorship. So um, that was my pathway really of coming in, and then it just sort of unfolded. I never planned or set out to work at the college to get the Gordon Higginson Memorial Scholarship. Everything to me has just been a natural process, really, of moving forward, and it's it's been tough. I've got to say, it's been tough as
Mhm.
well with all the setbacks, and it's not all sort of love and light on this journey. It can be quite hard, and there's a lot of things that you sort of learn and understand about people and situations, and but it has been a beautiful journey of understanding. When I look back at myself and how I was, and some of my friends, it's
Yeah.
like spiritualism really has changed my life, because for one, it's helped me within my sobriety, because there's a purpose there. I know that
Yes.
I have a purpose within this world, um, and I know that it doesn't limit to just mediumship. There's all sorts of things that we have, all the faculties of our soul, if we just allow it to and enable it to unfold, we can we can do anything. It's limitless. So yeah, I suppose I don't know whether I said too much there about the journey, or if you want me to say any more on that. But
No, whatever you want to share, Adam, it's authentic, it's raw, it's real.
yeah,
And people think that I don't know why, but people have this stereotype that you have to have seen spirit your whole life. I
yeah,
have, but I didn't have an understanding of what I was actually seeing or experiencing. So
yeah,
to me, I was all full of fear. So was it brilliant and was it amazing and love and light? No, because I didn't have the understanding.
absolutely.
And it's this journey of discovering of self and learning more about yourself, and like you said, learning about others, and it's not an easy road. Do you ever find, I find this from my own personal experience, but do you find, Adam, sometimes it's a lonely journey?
Absolutely. I really do. And sometimes, I mean, it's sort of like a double whammy in some ways, because I know that through my sexuality, because I identify as a gay man.
Hmm.
Um, there's always that sense of being different, growing
Yeah.
up as a child anyway, and having those different feelings, but
Hmm.
having that extra sensitivity as well, as from the mediumistic point of view and the
Hmm.
psychic point of view. It's like I really don't know which one it was, or whether it's accumulation of both.
Hmm.
But I think it does make you feel like you're in a lonely place. I remember at school as a child, I always had to be encouraged to join in with the kids to go and play, because I'd stand at a corner and I'd just watch. I'd be a people watcher, and that's.
Yeah.
But then I'd be encouraged. But don't get me wrong. As soon as I was encouraged and I was welcomed into that group, I would play like the rest of the children. I wasn't.
Yeah.
So it's just that it was always them first steps. I just needed that encouragement with everything, and that's been the story of my life, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate, even myself too. And it's not just to talk about me, but I know myself and some other people. It's kind of like we're here, but we don't know why we're here and
Yeah,
where's our place in this world and how do we fit in. And until we know that, we kind of stay over here quiet. And I like how you say, you people observe. I do that all the time.
yeah,
I
yeah,
do. And it's observing and learning and I guess sensing and just seeing, kind of reading the situation, if you will, before you engage in it. And then you do and you open up. But it's, the spiritualist church or spiritualist centers, there's something really magical about them
yeah,
where it doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what the color of your skin is. None of
yeah,
that stuff, those labels
yeah,
matter when you
yeah,
come in. I find it was like coming home and I
yeah,
found my tribe. And now that I'm gone from just a member of the congregation to a minister, I see people that come in as well and find it and they go, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And then it's this journey of learning and in some respects, unlearning certain things,
absolutely, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And do you find, what was it in particular about spiritualism that maybe helped you embrace and understand more about yourself and bring you to this place of your in your life right now where things are more in a flow, if you will, and you're using your mediumship and you're helping and you're serving others?
Yeah. I suppose it was just through experience and gaining confidence, but I always likened the seven principles of the SNU
Mm,
spiritualism to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous.
mm,
I just feel like the seven principles or the 12 steps are a broken down version of the seven principles. And I
mm.
remember sitting in a spiritualist church one day, and I thought I went through a stage of going through a list of all the people that had ever hurt me in my life. So it was about that, because we can hold on to things where people have hurt us, and it's
Yeah.
like that Buddhist saying that we're drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know them those people don't really know what they've done,
Oh,
and but you're holding that, and I realized that I'd see people in like the supermarket, and I think, and I'd say hello to them, and I think, what have I said hello to them for? After what they did 10 years ago. And it sounds daft, but
yeah.
I know that this is a pattern in human behavior where we can't deal with things, where we struggle
Yeah.
to deal with emotions. Now I was struggling to deal with my emotions. I'm a different person now where I have to express something. I'm not good at bottling things up, and I have to express things. But what I started to realize, I must have wrote down all these things, and I actually made appointments with these people, and I sat down and I went through. I felt like this all this time ago, so it was a very natural counselling element to it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my friends were really worried about me at the time. But it's like I've got to do this. I know I've got
Yeah.
to do this. And some of it was really like, some people were really upset. I can't believe that you felt like this. Some people denied ever saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming back to the house that I had at the time, and I lived on my own. And I thought, do you know, I've made things worse. And I remember sobbing, I've made things worse. And then this feeling came over me, is that you know, and they know the truth.
Yeah.
You've spoken your truth, and they know. And do you know what? That relationship even changed without them accepting that they'd hurt me. But they had accepted it within by the way they treated me from then on.
Ah,
So things did change. And I used to think, gosh, this is like step nine, where it's like this in step nine in Alcoholics Anonymous, if I remember correctly, is about making amends with
yeah.
people. And it's usually about the alcoholic or addict uh, saying that they're sorry to other people. Well, obviously it was the other way around for me in some ways, but it was such a healing experience, and I liken sort of step nine to um, principle five, which is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And I took full responsibility of my life, and I chose not to be a victim in life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when I was facing these people, they became the victim of what I felt I'd suffered all that time.
Mm-hmm.
But what the beauty of it was, that there was a resolution within it all, and really that it lifted the things, it lifted the poison that I was drinking. It lifted all the emotions that I was feeling and holding, and the baggage I was carrying for so long. So I know that spiritualism in that way was about that,
Mm-hmm.
and I know healing, being in the presence, because I know um, about the power in the presence, and that power, when we engage within it, has the power to move us, and
Yeah.
and it has the power to lift us, and I think for my involvement within spiritualism and my being allowing myself to accept these changes, because do you know what? It's not all roses. It's chaos and contemplation to get to
Yes.
a revolution within your soul,
Yeah.
because you've got so much that you're holding on to, so many conditions, so many things.
Yeah.
And I never used to cry. And then all of a sudden I started crying at the smallest thing. And so it's my sensitivity that that wall was breaking down, that shell, that protectiveness that I had was breaking down. That's what spiritualism did for me. And
Yeah.
it was a natural thing. I believe my soul helped me. Um,
Absolutely.
well, that's how I feel, because my soul wanted to come into its purpose, and the only way it could come into its purpose is to help me, and so we could focus and move forward and not have any of this baggage. And don't get me wrong, we all have some sorts of baggage and hang-ups and things,
Yeah.
and some things never go away, and we have reactions to actions that other people may do within our lives. But do you know what the key is awareness of that. As long as we are aware of those reactions that we have, we can learn to sort of tame them, or be the one that can apologize to people, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just one of them things about self-awareness and understanding. Now, I believe spiritualism brought to me the awareness and understanding. I think I had to go through that process first, because I was developing for 11, 12 years before I got up on the platform. So it was something that needed to happen with me before. I needed to know myself a little bit more before
Hmm.
exposing myself on platform and being
Yeah.
vulnerable.
I get it.
Because there was one time where I did get up too soon, and I remember giving the information, and it was absolutely correct, because the lady came up to me 2 weeks later, but she wouldn't take it at the time. And it was because she was embarrassed, and it was a mum, and she was an alcoholic, and she wouldn't take it. But that destroyed me. The 2 weeks that
Hmm.
I had to think about that, it destroyed me. And it took some time to get back up, and it was Mavis that helped me to get back up on the platform. And Mavis's teachings also is about being the whole medium, being a medium's medium, not just having the faculty of mediumship and demonstrating,
Yeah.
but about the spirituality and what it means, like how to know and understand yourself. So she was giving us tools to help us to understand ourselves, and not to
Hmm.
become a clone, to be our own person, our own people,
Yeah.
and express the God inside us, express the soul of us, and connect with spirit, how we're supposed to connect in the most natural of way. And one thing that she taught me as well, when just sort of moving on there with about the spirit world, is that the spirit world are people.
They
It's
are.
it's
They
mums
are.
and
Yes.
dads and sisters and brothers, and
Yeah.
sometimes we've gone in classes, and they're just treated like bits of information,
I know.
and it's terrible. And that's one thing that Mavis taught me, and I always knew that the people, of course, but it was her putting it in certain ways, and you think, yeah, I get that. And when you understand that, you get the reverence of working with those people. How would you treat them on the street?
Yeah.
Would you demand the name and telephone number and all these sorts of stuff? You'd have this way of communication, of ice breaking, and all these different
Yeah.
things. So yeah, it's been a whole mixture. I feel lucky, even though I've had quite some turmoil in my life.
Hmm.
I feel quite lucky to have gone through what I have, for the understanding that I have now. And sometimes it's taken that, and I have been to the depths. I've got to say that I have been to the depths of not wanting to be here,
Yeah.
and what is the purpose in life, and that's not a very nice place to be, and being treated for with medication and all sorts of things throughout my life. But again, spiritualism, I'm not on any medication anymore for years and years. I end up stopping smoking. I used to smoke. So it's as if, like, there's just this way of, I don't need those vices and things. My only vice now is probably chocolate.
Well, I think that's allowed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Spiritualism is so beautiful in that it is not only a religion, it's a philosophy and it's a science, and it has a huge component of healing outside of just the spiritual healing, and that it helps bring wholeness and health to the body, mind, and spirit. So people
absolutely.
like you who have, gone through moments in their life where we've had vices, or, for moments in time, someone may have needed to use some medication, which
Yeah,
fine, that's what it's there
absolutely.
for. But it can help you get to the place where you don't need it as much or less reliant on it. And
Yeah,
that's what I see with spiritualism. And it is the most incredible movement, religion that I can think of. And honestly, spiritualism has been around since the beginning of time. It just didn't have that label.
yeah.
And it is just so beautiful. I love your story. It moves me so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
So you do weekly a sitting in the power.
I do,
Do you want to
yes.
talk a little bit about sitting in the power and how you got into doing these weekly sessions online?
Okay, so I'll just start with how the power really was. I told you I went on Glenn Edwards' week,
Yeah.
the first week in 2005. He showed us, he sat us in the discipline of sitting in the power. And I have to say, from that week, I wish I knew I knew what it was, but I must have spent the next 11 years trying to find out what this power was. And it wasn't until another medium said to me, Adam, why do you keep searching for the power when it's always within and around you? Just embrace it. And I thought, wow, it is, isn't it? It is. Because my mediumship was kind of stop start. And I saw it as I'd been someone that I always like to use the analogy of a car. So I was taught the techniques in the way of I could change the gear, I could turn the wheel, and I could put the brake on certainly, but I couldn't put the gas on, the accelerator, and the accelerator is the thing that's going to keep you moving.
Yeah.
So I was always not really understanding my power, my connection with the spirit world, but I was learning techniques. So it wasn't really going anywhere for me. So it wasn't until I got this further and deeper understanding of the power. And that was probably a deeper relationship with God, because that is fundamentally the power. And for my understanding of God, from it being a man sat on a cloud chucking thunderbolts at people who had
Yeah.
done wrong, to the spiritualist perspective, of the power is within the blade of grass and the mighty oak tree and the endless skies and all and everything and in between. That's a big thing, and it goes into the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the higher power. So it was all sort of accumulating. Then it's as if, like, I just got it. I just got it. I love this feeling. And I knew that it was really important for communicating with the spirit world, because it really, on expanding the spirit within, which is expanding the soul as well, where the soul is the auric field is the soul emanation. So that really is, the more that we expand and strengthen that auric field, and the auric field is then going into a higher vibration which can meet the spirit world
Yeah.
and be like that fine tuning, so that they can join together, and you can have that harmony of communication. Now that was what my aim was, within sitting in the power. But then I just started to realize, as I've said before, there was a lot more to it than that, because as we are engaging within that power, we're actually unfolding the purpose of who we are. And I just thought it's a really, really important fundamental part of being human, of understanding spirituality. And because you think about it, not everybody is going to be a medium,
No,
but everybody's got a soul and a spirit. And
absolutely.
and everybody's got a purpose.
Yeah.
So if we embrace that power, and it's just remembering that power, it's remembering that source that connects us, because our minds can distract And we can go down the addictive pathways. We can go down self-destruction and like being a workaholic or whatever it is. And even the issues within our families or workplaces or whatever, they can be a distraction to who we truly are, and we can forget who we are. We can forget about the power of who we are because of the mundane material things that drag us down.
Yeah.
So I believe the power is something that we just are able to tap into at any point. I believe we can just go there with the breath. Just take a breath in, you're in the power. But it's just helping people to do that. So when I was president of Rottenstall Spiritualist Centre, it was a case of I was the only one that had the education in the centre on the committee, and I couldn't do an awareness class, and I didn't have the time to do all these different things. And I just got inspired to do a sitting in the power hour every Monday night. It would be something that could bring a little bit of income in. And and I thought, we get the power in. We sit in the presence of spirit and just watch where the inspiration and the help comes for the church, for the
Yeah.
people that are coming. So that, to me, it was like a fundamental. So that was a really big inspiration for me, and push to do that. And I started to do it, and I always had it in my mind to do it on Facebook Live. So I'll get my phone on the rostrum and I'll do Facebook Live whilst people were in the congregation as well. But I never had the courage to do it because I thought all this technology is going to put me off the people that are there. You see, it was just one of the, so I never did it. But then, of course, because that started in 2019, it would be 3 years that I started in September sitting in the power. So obviously we were all thrown into lockdown,
Yep.
and that's where I started doing it online. And the first, I think the first few weeks I did it because everybody had nothing else to do, I suppose, and it was they were all at home. There was between 40 and 50 people
Wow.
online doing sitting in the power, and I did a little video for it just to. And it was all for donations for Rottenstall Spiritualist Centre as well, and that was our only source of income. And
Mhm.
honestly, I do believe in that when we set the intention. So really, it was to help people during lockdown to have that time, because I would do it twice a week. I'd do it on a Monday evening and a Wednesday morning for the different time zones and what have you. So
Yeah.
and then my friend Suzette, she would take over on the Wednesdays that when I was going back to work. So we kept things going, and it was just amazing time, really. And but what happened was last January, I resigned from Rottenstall Spiritualist Centre for some personal reasons, and I decided then, I've spent so much time looking after this one church, and successfully, because we left it quite um, stable compared to when I'd got the church, took over it, and I decided that, do you know what? It upset me that I'd heard that other churches were really struggling
Yeah.
throughout lockdown, but suffering in silence. They weren't like, because a lot of people took to the Zooms and things online, and they could support themselves. But what about the older people in the committees that couldn't? So
Yep.
I then changed the concept of sitting in the power to, now this is a community, an online spiritual community supporting physical communities. So please come along, but support your church, your centre, or your spiritual community. So it
Mhm.
was enabling people to come and they could donate to their church. So I was doing that, and it was working, and I get everybody to tell me which church you're supporting or representing, and I'll tag them into the advert, and they'll know that they're being represented. And also another thing that I did this year, I went through the SNU diary and
Yeah.
some independent churches, and I sent a leaflet. I was just going to show you the leaflet then. So I sent this,
Yes.
okay, and that was I sent it to every church. So there was over 300 churches,
Wow, that's a
And
lot.
yeah, and it was something that they can put up on the notice boards and put all their bank details on. And it was encouraging their congregations to come on sitting in the power, but to support them and donate to them. Because I thought it's all well and good me saying donate to your local church, but
Yeah.
how do they donate to the local church? So that was quite successful because I've had some more churches coming on. Um, it has gone, so it's like I said, we're in the third year now of it starting, and we've just got a wonderful community. Every week you've got your staunch sitting in the power people that come
Yeah.
every week in, week out. You've got your people that will come on to the recorded version on Facebook Live, that was Facebook Live, and you can see the comments coming out throughout the week. And I call it like the spiritual gym. So it's that
Yes.
it's that time for people to come and the soul time with the divine. So it's just a really important place, and I just do it in a general way, not for anything specific, because it's something that we're all on our unique pathway of the soul. So
Yeah.
whatever is needed for the soul will be given to the soul during that time. It
Yeah.
might be words that you need, it might be inspiration of creativity that you need, or it might be some sort of developing and unfolding that is needed. But that's down to the individual. But I'm just a facilitator
Yeah.
within that, and just create the space for that to happen. And I don't take any money for that. It's my time is free,
Hmm.
but all I ask is that they donate to their own churches, because it's really important about the churches to be supported through
Yes.
these hard times, and just making sure that it's and there's a lot of people from all over the world that come. It's so good. And we actually, I did a it was World Mental Health Awareness Week, and I wrote a poem for it called Loneliness, and we created a video, and it was offered out to the sitting in the power community. First of all, would you like to take part in this video? And they all read a line from this poem, and we did. And you know what,
Wow.
it's a proud moment, and it really brought
Yes.
awareness to mental health as well, and everybody owned their line, and it was such a powerful experience. But it's really brought like a family together of sitting in the power, and I think it's going to develop even more in the coming months too.
Well done. It's beautiful that even though you've moved on and stepped down from that position at the other church, you're still carrying on and being of service. And you're right. A lot of the churches, they don't have the same volume as far as congregation. So every penny they really rely on to keep the lights on, the doors open.
Absolutely,
And so any way that we can give back is incredible. So that's amazing. Thank you for doing that.
thank
We
you.
need those churches, we need those people and those
Absolutely,
communities to stay afloat. And honestly one of the most difficult things in COVID or during that time, particularly like the first 2 years, was a lot of those places were closed.
yeah,
And so where are people getting that connection with that community and with spirit? And, it's nice so many people could jump online. But,
absolutely, yeah,
for those of you who are listening who are connected to a spiritualist center, give back, donate, support,
absolutely,
love your community because they need it. I
yeah,
know even our center, it was challenging. It was challenging. And we're lucky to actually still have a brick and mortar place to go. And
yeah,
honestly, thank you, Spirit. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So I wanted to kind of move on to something. You have a love of poetry.
Yes,
And you also have this amazing book called Soul Rise.
yes.
Soul Rise, which is a collection of poems, soul expressions. Do you want to talk about a little bit about your love of poetry, how you came into that, and then I want to read a couple of your poems.
Okay, yeah, I will do. I mean, I can't actually say I had a love of poetry. I've got to be honest
Where
about
did
that.
this come from, Adam?
I know
How did you get to
exactly.
poetry?
Exactly. And I class myself as an accidental poet, if I'm honest. It's honestly it's very strange what happened. I mean, I wrote a poem a few years ago about my drinking, which is in the poetry
Mm-hmm.
book. And there was another one called Roundabout, and
Yeah.
and they was like ones that I wrote, not really thinking anything about it. And I I'm not somebody that will just sit and just write poetry, but sometimes
Hmm.
what I found happens is when I want to express something, it just seems to start rhyming, and it's just something, and I can actually feel the power whilst I'm writing.
Hmm.
It's and the right words come. So, and that's why I feel like it's a soul expression. Obviously, my experiences are filtered through that,
Yeah.
and it's a good way of me being able to express, and quite cathartic with some things.
Yes.
And obviously, there's some that really didn't make the book because they were too personal in some ways. But it was when I went on a 10-day Vipassana retreat last year. It was a silent retreat, and you weren't allowed to be on your phone. You weren't allowed to have a pen and paper. It was pure silence and feeling isolation. And there was a little fir tree in the grounds, and I used to go to that every day. I didn't know it was a fir tree at first. I thought, wow, look at that tree. And when you went up to it, it's like, oh, it's just a fir tree, but it just looks so magical from when the sun was glistening on it. And I used to sit on this bench, and words started coming into my mind. And I'm thinking, I've not got a pen. I can't write anything.
What do
What
you
am I
do
going
with
to
this?
do? What am I going to do? So
Yeah.
I promised myself on the last day what I'll do. I'll take a picture of the tree, and then I'll see if I'm inspired when I get home. And sure enough, I was. But what started to happen, I was writing about 2 or 3 poems each evening. And sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, be like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd grab my phone and I'd go on my notes on my phone and start to write them out. And all I was doing was putting them on nice picture backgrounds, on memes, and I was just posting them on Instagram and on Facebook, not thinking anything much about them. Just I will share these and see, you know, just if anybody can relate with them. And the feedback I was getting from them was quite overwhelming, because they were saying you should publish these, and I was having people from churches saying, could we use these poems for our services? I was having fellow mediums asking, could I use this for an address? And my lovely friend Suzette has been someone that's encouraged this all the way through. And it's like, because things can start happening where we're having a conversation and a word is said or a sentence, and it's like, I'm going to write something about that. I need to write something. And that happens. And it was like when this poem called Share was written, it was like, I need to stop sharing now. Ironically, I need to stop sharing these now, and just collate and build these up. And there is actually a poem called Soul Rise
Yep.
in there. Yeah.
That's the one. That's one of them I'm going to read. I
Is
love
it?
it.
Yes.
Love
Yeah.
it. Yes.
So that came the title of the book.
Yeah.
Soul Expressions was actually an accident, because I didn't want it to be just called a poetry book. I wanted them to be called, I wanted another word for poetry. And so Soul Expressions was brought in. And it was actually the publisher that brought Soul Rise, Soul Expressions as a sort of second title there.
Okay.
So that's what happened there. And all the encouragement that I had about publishing, it was probably the most easiest thing that I'd ever done, because it
Really?
just because it just all came together. I had everything ready,
Yeah.
all the pictures, all the and I just had to put it all together. I had all the poems, and it was a case of just putting it to the publisher, and then it was just waiting. And it's just been so overwhelming, the response from it. I've just loved every minute of it. Really, it's been just people's healing from it. I've got people that have given me feedback that are using it in counselling sessions. Obviously we've got people using it. I did a discount as well when I did the Sitting in the Power poster. I also sent a poster out to all the churches as well, so that they could actually have it half price, and that gave them all a discount code so that they could have a copy if they wanted to, and that was quite a good response as well.
Mhm.
So it was because I realised that it was something to help people to be inspired, and that was relatable to in some ways. So yeah, it was so exciting. I never thought that I would be in a book, publish a book. So I was just thinking of the other book then, that I'm in with Carial Deruchot's Demystifying Mediumship. I've got a chapter in that book, so that's sort of went in there. So in the space of a year, I was in two books. Obviously, one was Kerry's, but I had my very own book.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting. Your book. So, everybody who's listening, Adam sent me a signed copy of the book so I could read it before our podcast. I read the book and I read it front to cover
Yeah,
in one night.
yeah,
And I read the poem, read a poem, and then I had to reread it because there's so much depth to it. You can the emotions and the feeling are tangible, Adam, in it, and
yeah,
it touches the soul, which is perfect why you have titled that book.
yeah,
There's so many in there. You can really see a lot of a spin or take on your own personal life, and then it starts moving and you can see this progression of your healing taking place
yeah,
within the writing. And oh, I'm getting emotional right now because it honestly, there's certain words, certain books that just touch the spirit, and your book does. So I'm going to read this
yeah,
first one, and it's called Soul Rise. And through the ages and test of time, the only sacrifices uncovered were mine. Disabled in thoughts and restricted in mind, believing in what you wanted to believe, feeling left behind. Under a dark spell, venturing through misty woods, hit by the branches and never feeling good. Then a spark from within ignited a shock. The soul starts to rise, changing my luck. The foundation, my salvation, my God or my love. The spark from within, a sure sign from above. Life is for living, and it can take the school of hard knocks for the soul of our being to truly rise from beneath the rock. That is some goosebump stuff right there. Very much inspired. So, do you have, can I say, do you have a particular spirit worker or helper that helps you with your inspiration, or is it just come into downloads? How does this work? A culmination of you and spirit? How does this work? It's amazing.
yeah. It's definitely a combination of both. I believe that the poetry is an aspect of my soul and my
Mhm.
creativity.
Yeah.
Um, but I know that when I read some of the poems back to myself, it's as if like, gosh, I don't think I would have said it in that way, or
Hmm.
where has that word come from? And is that really the right word to use? And so it's like there's like a questionable part of the poetry sometimes, and I just think it's like getting this excitement to write, and it's like, and I'm stuck in this zone of writing, and then it's like this release when it's gone, and so I do believe that there is an inspirer in the spirit world, because I do sit with the spirit world with a friend, every Wednesday evening, and it has become apparent that there is somebody very philosophical,
Hmm.
and I believe that they may influence some of the poetry. I can't say all, because I have to take responsibility for my own experiences, but I do believe that it's the power of the spirit that enables me to express. And like I said, it's quite. We came to an understanding, myself and Suzette, a friend that's been throughout the process of all these poems, and she says, "You're a translator of experiences through words."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and I really thought, yeah, I like that. I think that's
Yeah.
because it sort of takes you on a journey. Um, and I have started to write some poetry as well. That I've got one called Losing My Mind. Because there is going to be another book that's going to be coming, and
You
I've got
answered my question.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Exciting.
yeah. I've been still continue to write, and there's one called Losing My Mind, and I've never experienced anybody with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah.
You know, I think my great grandmother had it, but I was about 4 at the time when she passed to the spirit world. So I'd never really understood the effects of it or experienced the effects. However, I wrote this poem that explained, as if it's like somebody from the spirit world that had dementia or Alzheimer's, and saying that there was like in God's waiting room, there, it wasn't really them that was there. There was in between sort of thing, and
Yeah.
they really knew that, although you didn't think they was there, they now know that they truly did care because of maybe the emotions that was going on at the time.
Yep.
And I'll share it with a small group of people or friends, just to say, what do you think of this one I've written? And you know what, they've been in tears with it when I've read it. And some of them have experienced Alzheimer's and dementia within their family, and it's like, please can I print that? Please can I have that poem? Because it sort of shines a light and a positive aspect on people's experiences that go through that. But like I said, I've not been through that, so I know that that's come from somewhere.
Yes.
And I believe that I have been, and I just allow whatever comes through. There's been some quite revolution ones as well, like Power to the People poetry that comes through.
Yeah.
There's been stuff about anxiety that and depression, and obviously I've experienced those things, but some things, like I've written one that was quite uncomfortable, and I'll explain it. And it's about cancer, and it's called The Big C, but it's about somebody who doesn't have any hope anymore.
Mm.
And they're accepting it, and really it was quite sad, and it was upsetting me to write it, you see. But
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, I don't even know where that belongs, or what, it must resonate with somebody, but it just felt inappropriate to share it, and because it's not very positive. I'm really positive in things, and I always think there should be some sort of upliftment to something, but that was like somebody accepting that this was the end of their life.
Yeah.
And what is afterlife. It was sort of putting myself in that position. So yeah, it's very interesting the way that it's evolving for me, because it's changing. From Soul Rise, it's changing, and I will tell you the name. It's going to be called Whispers.
Oh.
So that's going to be the second book. So yeah, it's all quite, and I think it's going to have sort of a different feel again from that. But obviously, just going back to Soul Rise too, what was happening, because I always forget to mention, it's got a reflections page where people can,
Yes, it does.
where people can actually, if something touches them within the poem, they can actually write down the reflections, and I've left it blank so that they can draw pictures, or whatever, however they feel creative to express in their way. And that came through reading a poem called Acceptance to a colleague at work, and they said, oh, I really love that poem, but it's making me feel a bit funny inside, because I really go with it, but I don't know how to feel about it. And I says, do you feel like you need to write down? And she says, yeah, I feel like I need to express. And that is where that was the inspiration behind that page. And I thought it gives people an opportunity to reflect on each,
Yes.
and it's a bit like a self-development book as well.
Absolutely. It's very, and I love the reflection because it's very therapeutic, if you will. Like for,
Yeah.
in self-help books, there might be a blog, or not a blog, but like a little article or chapter you read. And then those reflections allow you to find the words to those emotions. Sometimes we don't understand what that feeling, that sensation, that emotion is. And when you just
Yeah.
start writing it down, it just starts to flow, and you go, holy smokes, I didn't know that was
Yeah.
what was in me.
Yeah.
And your book, Soul Rise, Soul Expressions, it's so relatable because It doesn't matter if you're a medium or not, if you consider
No.
yourself spiritual or not. This book is
Yeah.
for you and it's
Yeah.
relatable. And it doesn't matter where you are today. We all
Yeah.
have a story. We all have had our struggles and those parts of our moments of our life that we'd rather not remember,
Yeah.
prefer other people not know. And sometimes there's like a shame with it. And
Yeah.
I think that hinders our healing and our soul progression and our unfoldment. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, clean out the cobwebs, do some spring cleaning, heal.
Yeah.
And through your book, people can do that. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, do you have any advice for people in their mediumship journey? Like for yours, you said there was the stop, go, and you had, I'll say, different seasons of your development to where you are right now. Any words of advice for those people that are, developing and working on their mediumship and they feel like I'm not making any progress, but yet they keep getting messages like similar to you. This
Yeah.
is that potential within you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think sometimes it's that saying, isn't it? When the student is ready, the tutor will appear.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really happened with me. And I think I needed to go through that process and life experience as well to that point to be ready for it.
Mhm.
I think students of today have to really question themselves on what is it that they really want to do. Is it that they want to become the medium on the platform doing readings? Is that what the soul really wants to do?
Mhm.
Because sometimes we can be fitting a square peg into a hole, and I believe that the full essence, I mean, anything that I would recommend is sitting in the power,
Yeah.
self-reflection, personal development, really getting to know who you are to understand what you want to do.
Mhm.
And because the downfall sometimes I feel and what I've seen within the mediumship world is that everyone will put everything into the mediumship. And then once they've done that, it's as if like they can sort of feel this sense of worthlessness without it, or if it goes wrong, then it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I believe that's where competition comes in as well. And I think we have to look at our life grid and make sure we're putting um well, giving us as much attention to things in our lives as we possibly can, all aspects in our home and family,
Yep.
work, partnerships, and whatever it is. And I think that's really important. It's a works in progress for me because I can get so absorbed in something and then feel like I've neglected other things. And, it's just life. But again, it's about being aware. So I
Yeah.
think any budding medium, it's like, just why is it that you want to become a medium? Is it about service?
Yeah.
What are the reasons that you want to become a medium? And once you know that that is your purpose, then be yourself, be the natural medium that you are. Have a tutor or mentor that is going to bring the best out in you, that's going to nurture you.
Yes.
There's a lot of teachers and a lot of choices these days, and I suppose it's choose who you're drawn to, um, and yeah, it's about the passion. Follow your passion in whichever way that is, and it might be that you're just a wonderful healer, you're a wonderful speaker. Just allow them things to unfold. I realized that when I developed my speaking abilities, it deepened my mediumship as well because it strengthened my vocabulary. But it also, I believe, when we understand the philosophy of our own soul, we can understand the philosophy of the spirit world. Yeah,
Love that.
because we have all this, so even like through soul rise and all the experiences within that comes an understanding of different situations. It's a bit like a songbook because you've got like the lyrics. Everybody will look into it and have their own experience within their life and tap into that experience and have their understanding.
Mhm.
And and what that does for other people, it will unfold something within them or express something within them. So I believe when we really go to the depths of understanding our own story, then of course we can be the storyteller for those
Yes.
in the spirit world. Because I believe that the spirit world they want to express what they want to express. And I believe that it's always a healing, there's always a purpose there and an understanding of why they've come. It took a lot of effort for them to come
Oh,
to be a
yes.
medium. And I think as a medium, it's important for us to understand ourselves so that we can understand every aspect of the message that's going to be delivered, so that we can, any hang-ups we may have about certain situations. It could be a spirit person that comes through that could have one of them hang-ups that you feel uncomfortable with. Now, how are you going to deliver that to the
Yeah.
person? It's so really looking at the awareness of self and personal development. I think it's key. And I also think within spiritualism, there's a part within that through the principles that can reflect upon who we are as individuals. And like the 12 steps, I believe the seven principles can be the key to whatever's going on in life for the understanding. So, any budding medium, please just be balanced, um, put your efforts into everything within life, not just within mediumship,
Yeah.
because it can be just one of them where people can feel destroyed if it doesn't work out. And you've always got to have, that's life. And we have our ups and downs within mediumship. It's the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can have a wonderful dem and it goes, like, I wish it could go like that all the time, and then the next it could go as flat as anything. And that's the way that things go. And it's us having the resilience to know and understand that as well. So I think it's about balance, personal development, and knowing. So that's one thing that I'd recommend to anybody
Mm-hmm.
needing that's practicing, and to get a lot of knowledge as well.
Yes.
Absorb the knowledge and learn about different mediums and different ways and different philosophies. Really educate yourself, because the spirit world will use all that information as in your memory to
Yeah.
express themselves. So learn as much as you can, experience as much as you can, and be open to the possibilities of whatever magical healing can happen, and you can be that conduit for that.
Absolutely. And those are great advice, words my mentor has shared with me when I got into the ministry training program. That was a 5-year program.
Yeah,
And she said it's a very unique journey, not even just the ministry training, it is the ministry, but mediumship too. It's a very unique journey, and it is a
yeah,
discovery of self and learning more about yourself. And when you can learn and heal certain aspects of yourself, identify certain triggers, work through them, you become a
absolutely.
clear conduit for the presence of the spirit. And your human issues, if you will, are going to less likely interfere with that communication, because you're the storyteller. We don't want to,
Absolutely.
we love you, medium, but we don't want to hear your story. We want to hear spirit story.
Absolutely.
And having, I think, a really grounded, balanced approach, knowing that it doesn't have to be just all mediumship.
No,
Being a medium, I believe, is it's a lifestyle when you get into it, because it changes your perspective and your view on life. But also, too, you're still a spirit having this human experience, and don't neglect that human experience.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Because I think that's the thing as well, is that we all get too concerned about the spirit world, which they're absolutely fine. Um, and we forget to live our lives.
Yeah.
Because we get so consumed in communicating with the spirit world that we forget to communicate with the actual living in this world. And I've been I've been accused of that with some family members, and it's yeah, but it really puts in perspective that like they'll probably get more communication when they pass to the spirit world, that sort of thing. But it's it's just one of them things, because it's like I say, I'm so passionate about life after life, but I'm passionate about life within life. I think it's really important to
Yeah.
live this human experience it's things you start living at the edge of your comfort zone. And I've learned I always used to retract from that. I always used to hide away from that. And now it's like, yeah, it might not feel comfortable, but let's take that step.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did my first week at the Arthur Findlay College a couple of weeks ago, and it was German week.
Yes.
So it's kind of like you're on the edge of your comfort zone there, because although you're quite passionate about teaching, not only are you being assessed on that week, but you're also using translators. It's a different language, and so it was a whole mixture of different emotions that was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling a bit apprehensive at the beginning, but to feel the joy at the end, and the impact and the beauty of the students, and you see them progress, throughout the week, and to me it's absolutely magical. And for me to be able to put my spin and on personal development and the spirit as well as mediumship, well, that makes me whole as a teacher, to be able to
Yes.
to feel that I'm not just going there teaching people techniques to communicate with the spirit world, but we're also there as facilitators and nurturers of people's soul. What excites the soul? And
Yeah.
I just loved it. And it was called Pathways to Mediumship, and it was Minister Jackie Wright's course, who's now the new president of the SNU now. And it was just, yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. But again, it's them comfort zones. So you'll always have a comfort zone,
Yeah.
and you'll always have the edge of it that you need to get past to experience. And then of course then that's a new experience that you're experiencing to grow further and further and further. So the more that we experience the end of these comfort zones, or the edge of them and crossing them, the more that we're going to learn.
Absolutely. Keep pressing forward.
Keep pressing forward.
Bef- it- Before we wrap up today, I wanted to read this one poem that I love, and I'm sure I'm going to use it in a Sunday service because
Yeah.
I actually have a few of your poems tagged for my own use in the church. I love them. So, this poem that I want to read is called New Wave. It's not out of reach and not out of sight, although we all feel like giving up on the fight. The Great Spirit does call us or call to us from up above, trying to inspire minds to act as they should. We just have to accept that this will take time, trusting in the architect's plan a day at a time. One day we shall rejoice in a oneness for all, a soulful renaissance of the spiritual call. No ego to run from and no selfish intent. Only community and values on our time spent. Our family, our friends, our neighbors, our lovers, our children, our pets, our sisters and brothers. True kindness for all in our thoughts and our deeds. It's what the world craves for and what it truly needs. As we work on ourselves and feel the divine praise, these are basic principles for a spiritualist new wave.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. It's a beautiful gift to the world, this book, and I'm so grateful to have a copy of it. And it touches on so many different aspects of our human experience, of our spiritual experience, our spiritual selves. And everybody, in the show notes, I'm going to put links on where you can get this book. Get yourselves a copy. Adam, can you tell my listeners what you have up and coming and how they can get in touch with you?
Okay, so obviously I do this in the Power weekly. I do actually work full time. I work in construction, which is something I've not said during this interview.
Yeah.
So I always find it quite kind of hard to do some spiritual work sometimes,
Mhm.
especially with serving churches and things like that. But I have got a couple of weeks that will be coming up at the college that haven't been planned yet.
Okay.
So they're to watch out for. And I will be doing maybe a couple of online workshops too, So just watch out for that. There is a demonstration actually coming up on the 27th of August, and that's a fundraising demonstration for the Journey Within. It's for the Fox uh, the Fox School House project.
Yes.
So that is coming on. I'm working with my friends Christine Bond, Catherine Tart, and Brenda Jenkin.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing a demonstration of mediumship on at that time. So if you look at the Journey Within website, I'm sure you'll be able to find it there, but it's on the 27th of August. So yeah, it's just to look out. And if anybody is interested in, now I've got this amazing thing. I've got a lovely friend called Helen, and she helps me with all my technical stuff. She's the host behind the scenes on Sitting in the Power every Monday. She helps me with my marketing, and she's just a fabulous human being. And she actually set me up this site called Linktree.
Yes.
And that actually brings all my sites together. So if anybody's interested in what I do, you've got access to my book, you've got access to my YouTube, you've got access to my website,
Okay.
Facebook pages, Instagram, everything is in there. So that's Linktree/Adam Berry Medium.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes, and then you guys can just click on it, get all of Adam's info,
Yeah,
and check him out.
yeah.
And Adam, it has been so amazing having you on the show.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you.
absolutely amazing.
I've, I've really enjoyed it. I've just forgot to say something as well, because
Sure. Yeah.
there's been a project my friend Helen has got, and it's called Helen's Hour, which is
Okay.
on YouTube, and there's a Facebook page as well. But the last interview, I did the interview with Helen, and it was with Dr. Raymond Moody.
Oh, okay.
So that's just being edited at the moment, and it's soon to be released. So both myself and Helen interviewed Raymond Moody, and that will be coming out sort of imminently. So if people like Helen's Hour on
Yeah.
YouTube and her Facebook page, then they'll get the updates of when that's happening. But it's kind of like exciting because and and I,
Yes.
and I didn't realize. Have you read The Afterlife of Billy Fingers?
No.
Have you ever read that book?
No.
Well, it's a book by Annie Keegan, and it's a wonderful book. I read it some years ago now, and it's about a sister who loses a brother to the spirit world, and he comes back to communicate, and he really gives some brilliant evidence of telling us to go to places and to find things about where his car keys were and all this. It's amazing. I loved it, and they call it a true story because she's written it about her brother. Well, Dr. Raymond Moody did the foreword for that.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't realize until after we interviewed him.
So I'm writing this down because I'm a book lover. I
Yeah.
have books and books and books. Sorry, it's Billy Fingers,
The Afterlife
The
of Billy
Afterlife.
Fingers.
Okay.
Yeah,
I am going to get myself a copy. Excellent. And I'll put a link in the show notes too. So if everybody's interested in the book, we can all go to the same place and get ourselves a copy.
yeah.
Adam, it's so nice to connect with you. And it has been an absolute honor and privilege to share this space, to have you share your voice with my listeners. And you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you
And
very much.
thank you again for the book. It's
Very
amazing.
welcome.
And it's going to be well used, I promise.
Yeah, it is. At the moment, the book is because I had a fixation of that it needed to be square.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't want it to just be like a normal size book. It had to be square.
Hmm.
That limited me to how it was produced.
Oh,
So yeah, so anybody that ordered the book through soulrise.com or
mhm.
.co.uk, sorry, um, they could order it, and I have to send it from my home. All the publishers, and it has to all come from the UK, so it's kind of like been a time-consuming process. But the beauty of it has been is that I can personally sign it for people, and if people want to gift it to people, I can write a note in and send it to them. So that's been the beauty of it.
Oh,
But something's in the process at the moment where I've just ordered my next batch of books, and it's just going to be a little bit bigger, just buy 4 millimeters, and it actually makes it so it can be print on demand. So anybody around the world now can have, if they order the book through Amazon or through any bookstore that they internationally,
Yeah.
they'll receive it within a few days because they'll actually print it in the country that.
Perfect.
So it's changing. So Soul Rise is evolving now to be more reachable to people, which is wonderful, and that's happening very shortly.
This is exciting. I also saw that the college has your book on the shelves too.
Yeah, that was a big achievement. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I was so excited. And I never thought I'd be tutoring there, and I never thought in a million years I'd have a book in the shop as well. So the thing that was surreal is that I had people running around the college trying to get me to sign the books, which was kind of surreal. But it's just been lovely, a lovely experience, and it just doesn't feel over yet either. There's still things coming out with Soul Rise. There was a bit in the psychic news, like a good read, and there's other things. It's going to be I'm going to be talking about it in SNU today, which I've just done an
Wow.
interview about that as well. So it's still going to be sort of flowing. So it's lovely, and obviously this podcast obviously
Yeah.
brings some attention to it too. So that's wonderful.
Oh, yes. It is worth the while for people to get a copy and read it and to promote it because there's so much value to this book. Absolutely. Adam, it's been so nice to connect with you. And again, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. I'd love to come back, and thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh,
I've
my
enjoyed it.
pleasure.